Hello, welcome. In this video, I'm going to be creating this exploded two-point perspective view of our little Lego figurine case. And so what I've got here is the pedestal at the bottom. And then if I just lift off here the display case cover, then we have this acrylic window displayed above here. I'm not going to worry about putting on the Lego brick nor the plaque that I've got on here in this example, but what I am bothered about is the fact that this base has like a stepped pedestal. Hopefully you can see that there. To see if I put it in that orientation there, so you can see from the light I've got this two-tiered kind of step. And as far as the acrylic window goes, I'm not going to worry about trying to add in the finger joint, so I just want to show how this lifts up above the base. And then I've got these arrows here showing how this display case cover would then snap back over. Let's put our little Lego person back in there first. Snaps back over the top. So this is our objective. Okay, right, so let's get started. I'm going to have a clean piece of paper. My approach is going to be to draw my horizontal line. Then I'm going to work on creating the base here. And then I'm going to work on drawing the top glass cover or acrylic cover, and I'm going to make sure the whole thing is fitting within this 1/5 of the page. So I've got 2/5 over here, 2/5 over here, and the middle 1/5 of the page in the middle. And I'm going to have it slightly offset to one side here so that it shows more of this front edge than of the side. Okay, so let's get going. Here's my fresh sheet. I'm going to move my set square out of the way there temporarily. I'm going to bring the ruler up to the top here. Somewhere near the top here, let's just do a horizontal line just to specify the horizon line there. On this far edge, I'm going to have a vanishing point. On the far right here, I'll have another vanishing point. Now I'm going to think about doing the front edge here of my box. Now I'm wanting to have this kind of in this orientation like so. So I'm going to imagine it's going to be not in the middle, but as I say, slightly off to the side here. I'm going to have it in about this position right here. And I think what I'm going to do at this point is just to the C. I'm just going to draw it up about that far. Okay. Now I've got a very, very faint line there. I'm thinking I'm just going to go with this a little bit darker so you can see it more clearly. Hopefully that is the same position. There we go. Okay, absolutely fantastic. Now let's go and take back our line here. Let's first identify where this front edge is going to be. So what I'm wanting to do here is just define this front edge right here. That's my starting point. So I'm going to have it coming from here up to about there. Okay, so that's going to represent roughly the height of that base pedestal. Okay, so let's just now draw in the perspective line there, going back to the vanishing point. And actually, all I want to do here is just take it so far back. There's no point going all the way to the vanishing point, of course, because around here, there's nothing happening in my drawing. It's all happening down here. As I say, I am drawing a little harder now than I would like to, but that's simply so that you can see this coming out on the video. If I press more likely than this, then you likely won't be able to see anything. Let's take that back here. And the distortion of this is quite heavy because I'm moving quite a long way down from my horizon line. So as I move things closer to the horizon line, or I move my vanishing points further out, that sense of distortion disappears. But because I wanted to have the glass display case on here above, I've got to give myself enough space for that. Okay then, so here's now my top edge of this base platform. Let's now put this in. Okay, good. And over here as well. Now I'm feeling here as if I need to speed this up a little bit. Okay, again, I've done that one. Come back. I've done that one very lightly there. I feel as if perhaps I should have gone over that a little bit more firmly. Okay, now here's a significant point in this design process. I need to try and work out how deep I need to have this front edge and this side edge. And looking at this design here, I can see that it is wider at the front and shallower on the side. So I've got to try and get my proportions right here, and I'm going to be basing this around about that point there. Also, as I draw this, it's also going to be pulling up the page as well and giving me less space to do my acrylic cover. So let's have a think about this. I'm going to have this about there. Okay, and I'm going to be extending this one back. I would imagine somewhere about there. How's that going to look? Let's try and visualize this right now and make sure that those kind of proportions are a fair representation of what's happening here. I think I'm okay with that. Okay, now I've got now an intersect at this point. This top intersect, this is now going to be defining this top edge here of the base plate. We're going to take that back to there. Take it to about there. That's nice. And then over here, let's do the same back to the other vanishing point. Okay, so therefore now what I've got is that base plate mapped out there quite nicely. I think at this point I'm going to ink over this, and then we're going to just the bottom edges here and then see how that looks. Okay, so I've just inked around the external profile there and that front little corner because I know that these are areas of my drawing that aren't going to be overlapped from anywhere else. Right, so at this point, what I now need to do is identify where the center of this current base piece of wood is. So I need to effectively find the midpoint of this design. Let's have a see. Let's just get another ruler here. Okay, so let's have a looky. We're going to have a line straight across corner to here of this top plate. And I'm also going to here have a line straight from corner to corner of this top plate. And this point here, which I'm now circling, is defining the center of this shape. Now, at this particular point, I am actually going to rub that vertical line away a little bit there. Hence, doing it faintly really helps, just so I don't get any confusion about what is happening. Okay, so now what I want to do is define where this corner is happening right here. Hopefully you can see that again. I'm just going to turn this around a little bit so it's more to the light. I'm trying to define that little point there. Okay, so to do this, what I want to do is effectively define this point here. Now, having a look at this pedestal, this raised pedestal, and having a look at my Lego figurine here, I feel as if that's not set far enough back. It wants to be set further back on this corner. So let's have a see how that might look. I'm going to bring it back to about, I think, about there. That's where I want it. Okay. Let's put that ruler out of the way. But could I use that ruler to do my vanishing points now? Yes, I could. That's rather nifty. My perspective line, should I say. So now I'm going to come from that point there, back to the vanishing point. I'm just going to follow that through like that. And then let's see if it's long enough for this side. Now, where this intersects with the line that defines the center point of this top face is where now I'm going to pull this back to the top right vanishing point. Now, where this collides, this front edge of the base here, where that collides with this line that defines the center point of the top face, I'm going to pull that up to the top left vanishing point. And then now, if everything works out correctly, when I take this point to the vanishing point back here, it should collide, or intersect, should I say, with the intersect defined at this back point here. So that is now, in terms of perspective, all precise. This now defines the base of this design here. Now, again, just to make this stand out a little bit more clearly, what I'm going to do is get my fine liner And I'm going to go over the 2 lines here that I can now say are correct. Okay, so I know that those 2 lines are correct, and now what I need to think about is defining the other corners to this raised pedestal. In other words, I'm wanting to create the detail here. Okay, so let's have a see how this is going to look now. I need to come back to my parallel motion bar, lock that in the bottom there. I'm going to get my set square, and now this front edge here is very, very important. That is going to be where I'm going to take this up. Going to make sure that's intersecting right with the corner, and that was actually off there. I want to make sure I get this correct. Slightly off too far to either side now. Okay, this is not a good demonstration, is it? Okay, it'll do. Okay, let's take that up there. Let's take that up there. Okay, and now I need to define a height to this. So I think here, if I look at the height here, I also need to make sure that I've got that same height happening here. So I've got that about to the same height as this height on this side. Let's now take that back to the vanishing point. This back to the vanishing point over here. And then hopefully everything will align. Looking nice. And these 2 points should align here as well, which they do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to now ink over all of these lines as they should be. I'm going to leave the video going this time around. I think it might be beneficial. Let's make sure it's focusing. So I'm inking over the visible lines, or should I say the visible edges, to this pedestal base. Gone slightly off there. Okay, and I'm going to have these lines in here which define the height of the base. And then now I've actually got a slightly thicker fine liner here, which I'm using for the external profile. So it just pops out from the page a little more clearly. And that's now defining that base pedestal, which is representing the wooden base there of my Lego figurine display case. Okay, now I've still got to put the case over the top here, and this is where things are a little bit different again. Now I know that the distance from this edge, let's do it this way around so again you can see from the light, this edge here to this edge here, I know from my CAD file and from making this is 6 millimeters, and I know that the thickness of my acrylic is 3 millimeters. So therefore, if I take a midpoint between these 2 points there, this is going to be defining the external profile of this acrylic case, because I want it to snap over the design. In fact, now I've got it in position. This distance here also should be 3 millimeters from the acrylic base to the edge of this pedestal. So that's going to be my new reference point. I could also put a point down here as well. That might be easier because it's a bigger gap there. That's the kind of space that I'm looking for. Okay, so now I'm going to do, again, some more construction lines. Back to the vanishing point. Okay, again, I'm pressing a little harder than I'd like to here because I just want this to show. I'm going to do this one back here first. I just want this to show on the document camera that I'm using here. That just goes behind there, doesn't it? Let's see. I've got to make sure here that I'm getting the right line. What's basically happened here is I've lost the detail of that construction line. So I'm going to have to just rub that out and then just recreate this again. That's a bit of a mistake on my part there. Okay, so where was that line going back to? Or moving forwards to, should I say? It was there. Okay, so it's where those lines cross, that intersect, that takes me back to this vanishing point. Okay, and then now let's have a see. This is going to come back to the vanishing point in the top left. Yeah, and I'm happy with that. That's great. Right, okay, so I've drawn that base out there, and the idea of this is that I'm going to extend it up, and it's going to define the external profile of this acrylic clear display cover. Okay, so it's basically these points here, these new points, which is the midpoint between the top pedestal edge and the bottom pedestal edge. It's this point here, this point here, this point here. And there's also a point back here, which I've not followed through with my construction lines. And that's very, very bad of me. So I do need to follow that through there. It's just going to be there. And if I follow this one through as well, yeah, I'm just confirming where that point's going to be. Let's come back now to the parallel motion bar. Now I want to get quite a lot of height here to guide these up. So actually what I'm going to do at this point, let's put my parallel motion bar into this vertical perspective. And now let's do some long construction lines here to show where the acrylic display case, the clear display case, is going to go. It's going to make sure this is really accurately aligned here and snapped into position. So again, I'm pressing harder than I normally would here, but that's giving me that edge. Okay, there's an edge there. There's an edge there. And then finally, there's this one back here, which I can see is that point right there. Okay, so now what I've got here are the lines which are going to be defining these vertical edges to my display case. Okay, magic. Now I've got to decide at this point, let's bring this back again, I've got to decide where this starts and where this ends. And that's all happening on this front edge right here. So I want it to start, so it's definitely raised above the pedestal. And I want the proportions of this to be roughly in line with what I see with my display case. So I think I'm going to take it up to about there, let's say. Let's see how that looks. I think that's going to be about right. Okay. So I'm going to put my parallel motion bar to the side here. I'm going to get my 30 centimeter ruler again. And then now I'm going to take this point, which remember is this front edge, back to the vanishing point on the top left. I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to stop here because that's all I need. Now I've got to make sure I get the right lines. I can see I've already got a construction line here, but that's from this base of the pedestal. And it's this one here. This is the line that really matters. So what I might do here is just pull that back a little bit so I don't have any confusion. And now I want to be taking this intersect here back to the top right. And then this intersect here back to the top left. And hopefully, again, if everything's true, they should then connect to the back, which is where this back construction line goes up. Okay, so this now becomes the base of our display case. And now again, I'm just going to make sure that I'm happy with that proportion there. I almost feel as if that is not deep enough. So actually, I'm just going to rub that out there. And I'm going to put that a little bit higher. I think the display case should actually go up to about there. So same again. Let's add in now the perspective lines. And then back here as well. And as we're getting close to the horizon line here, our eye level, we can see that we're seeing less and less of the top of this box. And again, they're intersecting back here at the back. So there's certain telltale signs here that tell us that everything is as it should be. Okay, now I'm going to go over this display case. And for this, what I'm going to do is work with an even finer highlighter pen. These highlighter pens I'm working with here, I've got them in 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, and 0.8, I think they are, nib thicknesses. So this is the finest one, and I'm going to do it super fine because, of course, this is supposed to be this acrylic, this transparent lid. So I'm going to pause the video at this point, and then you'll see, hopefully, what we have. But no, I think I'll do the whole thing, and you can speed me up if you need to. Okay, so let's have a look here. This comes along to there. Nice. Now, thinking about this, I started this actually with a thin nib, and thinking about this now, and I'm just going to turn this to make my life a little bit easier. What I should have done is use a slightly thicker nib with this, because of course I want to use this very, very thin one to do the detail that's through the acrylic, through the clear acrylic. And because of the angle I'm working at here, I've kind of messed that one up a little bit there. Again, I'm turning this around just to make it a bit easier for me to draw. That one there, I kind of pulled it up a little bit, kind of subconsciously. So again, I went slightly off. There. Okay, now this, of course, is going to be a transparent acrylic window here. So actually, what I want to do here is add a bit more detail. What I'd like to do is add a little bit of the thickness, the internal thickness to this. Let me see, how am I going to do that? I'm going to pull, I'm going to pull this back here. I'm going to try and do this really, really faintly because this is looking through the case. So now I'm doing this, I feel like I need to go over the other lines a bit more thickly. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to extend onto this. I know that my acrylic cover here has thickness. So I'm going to try and represent that thickness on here. And to do this, I'm going to come back to my parallel motion bar. Now, will I have enough height here with my set square to do this? Yes, I will. What I'm looking at is where this acrylic case, what the dimensions are on this internal wall thickness. And that's going to be the same as this pedestal, because that's how it snaps into position. This internal wall thickness, or the distance, shall I say, from one internal face to the other internal face is going to be equal to the distance of this raised pedestal. So, with all that in mind, let's have a see how that's going to look. I need to take, effectively, let's make it a little bit higher there. I need to take this top pedestal vertical edge and take that up. This front edge is going to come up here. That edge is going to come up here. And then finally, I've got this back edge coming up here. Can I take that to the top there? We'll have to see. Okay, they're almost identical. Okay, so let's have a see how this is getting quite complicated now, isn't it? Okay, let's have a see how this is going to look. Okay, so what I now need to do, take my power motion bar off here. I'm now going to find, oh, just caught the camera there, excuse me. I'm now going to take find the midpoint of this shape again. So corner to corner. And in the same way, now these intersects define the inner edge of this box. So let's now use the vanishing points to map this through. That's going to come down there. Okay, now is that meeting in the corner there? I feel as if I'm slightly off, but I'm going to run with it. Let's keep moving forwards here. Back there, and then back here to the vanishing point again. So remember, all our lines are either vertical or going to one of the vanishing points. So that's given me this internal shape or internal size here. And then, of course, we've also got the thickness of the acrylic here at the top. And that's going to be a tricky one to work out. So I'm thinking here that what I'm going to do is just look at the height here, this height here of the 3mm pedestal, and I'm going to try and recreate that up here at the top. Make sure my ruler's the right way around would help. Again, I've caught the camera. Okay then, so I'm looking at this edge here. And then I'm going to take it back here to these vanishing points as well. Just to use a little bit of the definition of that corner there, because it's getting a little bit of a point, a bit scruffy on that corner. Okay, so let's see. I'm getting close to a conclusion with this. I'm going to try and do this internal detail now of this box, and I've got that back edge there as well. Let's see how this one maps out. Again, I'm probably just going to be rotating the drawing board here just to give me a bit of assistance. Okay, it's good. Pressing so faintly there that the pen actually came off the paper. So I've really messed up there big time, haven't I? Now I've got this front edge here is coming down. Got to be really careful here because there's two lines very close together. Definitely gone off there. I wobbled there. Didn't like that. Just feel it. Okay then. And then is this back edge back here, which I never did with the original drawing. So I've got to take all this all the way down and the front edge as well. Down to there. And I've messed up there at the top. It's just gone slightly wonky. And I've got this front edge here as well. Now this front edge I am going to make a little bit thicker now. I'm going to come onto my 0.2. Now if you haven't got obviously the fine liners, then what you can do here is do different thicknesses of pencil. Hi, excuse me, 1 second, sorry. Okay, down to there. And I'm thinking here, should I go back over some of these lines again? Certainly perhaps the external ones. Just to make this pop out a bit more from the page. And I'm really wobbling there. That's not good. That line's all over the place. And this line up here, my angles are a wee bit tricky here. Yeah, I was definitely going off there. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. What a mess right at the end there. Look at that. Okay, oh well, apart from that, let's have a see. Is there anything else that I would like to do with this? Let's have a see. I want to represent the fact that this is going down over the pedestal. So for this, I'm going to add in some little arrows here. Let's have a see. On this one here, I've got the arrows on the external edge, but I'm actually going to put them on this internal edge. I'm actually going to put them here. So against this internal edge, let's take that down like that. And here as well, this internal edge, going all the way down so we can see how it lines up with the space pedestal. And then I've also got this internal edge here. Go make sure I separate it from the other line on the right. Okay, I've gone slightly off there because I've gone pulled into the other line. And then let's just see if I can add in some arrows here. Let's have an arrow there. And turn this into a really nice, neat little arrow. Okay, good. Here. Good. And then finally, let's have one in here. We are looking great. Okay, so there's my updated drawing of this. Now, really, I feel as if personally, I've inked in the pedestal here, and I've inked in the external profile of this display case cover. Here, I feel as if the display case cover being inked in isn't quite working as well. But the key thing is here that I've been able to very accurately recreate effectively a cube in a cube. They've both got the same base, but this inner cube is obviously defining the space inside my clear acrylic lid. The fact I've got a 3mm thick material here, I've tried to represent that by having a 3mm spaced boundary between the inner cube and the exterior cube such that it will align with the pedestal on the bottom. So there we go. That is job done. Okay. Yeah, we're going to stop there. I hope that that was useful. This is going to be your challenge to be able to recreate this yourself using this 2-point perspective drawing system. So good luck.